Hey guys, Nat here. Before we get into the new episode with our special guests, I wanted to take a moment and highlight something really important that Outright has started. The global LGBTIQ movement is facing a unique and especially devastating crisis right now, not only because of increasing political and policy attacks, but also because of drastic foreign aid funding cuts from the US, other governments, and private donors. Outright estimates that $125 million has been eliminated over the past year alone, including 30% of Outright's budget. And LGBTIQ organizations across the globe are closing programs and in some cases disappearing altogether. There is no way for them to find sufficient alternate resources locally. Legal aid programs, healthcare centers, shelters for queer and trans people who have nowhere else to turn, and much more are shutting down, leaving our communities and hard-won progress at risk. In response, Outright launched a campaign called Funding Our Freedom to mobilize significant resources to sustain their movement and protect LGBTIQ lives worldwide. Outright wants people to understand what a dangerous moment this is and invites all of us to help by sharing more about Outright and their campaign. You can find the direct link to the Funding Our Freedom campaign in the description of this episode. Now, on to our guests. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Yeeted Rivalry. We have our next guests. We are so excited to have them on. We have Katie Hultquist and Karissa Jackson of Outright International. Outright International is a 35-year-old global NGO working to protect the human rights and improve the lives of LGBTIQ people around the world through research, advocacy, and supporting the grassroots global movement. And we are so excited to learn with them and talk about them, about everything that they're doing around the world. So welcome, Katie and Karissa. Thank you so much for coming over and talking with us. Yay!
Thank you for having us. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a big fan of your show, and I love heated rivalry. So I'm excited to be here and chat about all things global
What's your favorite
activism
scene?
and heated rivalry.
Tell me now. What's your favorite scene?
I have a long list for you. Um, Gosh, this is like asking what is your favorite child. It's so hard,
I can
but
go
I think
first.
Oh,
okay.
I
yes,
know
Karissa.
exactly the moment.
Yes. Oh, yeah, go.
In episode 5,
Oh, ooh,
when
well, you already got us.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
when they're at the bar and
yes, that's
Shane's
my
like, "Can
number
I tell
one.
you something? Can I tell you something? I have a confession to make." And Ilya is all nervous because he's thinking it has something to do with, oh my God. And when it turns out it's like the hiring a designer or something, and he
A
just looks so
stylist.
elated. His smile. I could just watch that scene over and over again. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Yes.
We are so on the same wavelength. That is
Yes.
all of the Tampa Bay scenes, honestly. Well,
yes.
episode
Yeah.
5, obviously.
Right.
And that is really hard to say, but I think that is certainly my top episode. And that series of scenes from the All-Star game, and especially that bar scene, just pure
It's
gold.
it's
Pure gold.
We are big episode 5 fans
Huge.
here.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is our favorite episode.
It is.
Yeah.
That it will always be everything about it. Yeah.
Well, when you
Oh.
get to episode 5, have us come back.
Well,
We will.
that's not going to be hard because it's going to take us like 20 podcast episodes to get
Yeah.
through.
But
So
I
more
do have
than
to
that.
just to give it an alternative. Obviously, the iconic ending to episode 5 has to be mentioned because,
Mhm.
I mean, that is probably, when I talk to our friends and colleagues around the world, that the significance of that episode, I think, especially to queer people, and that moment is just,
Mhm.
you've heard Jacob talk about it, and it's true for so many of us. But for me, obviously the cottage is like the comfort zone, but the
Mhm.
2 couch scenes in the cottage I love so much. The first one when they first get there, and then just like the grin on Shane's face when he realizes that they're on the same page about really being exclusive with each other. Like I can't deal with it. It just makes me so
No.
happy. And then the
I'm
second couch
crying.
scene where they're talking about the death glare from Shane, and I never want that problem to go away. Like the couch scenes, just they're just classic, and I could just
We-
watch
I'm
those
just gonna
on a loop.
cry.
I know. I
Just
know.
keep talking. We're just
I know.
I
Just
know.
keep telling
I
us
can
about
keep
it.
going, but I know we can circle back to that because
Now you know why we started this podcast, because
I
this is
know.
what we were doing, and we were
This is
like,
what-
"Ugh, I guess we'll
we
do
just
it into a
can't shut up.
microphone.
And I'm sorry. I just completely word vomited and had to ask that, but I
Yeah.
apologize because I dove
No.
in. But please explain more about your organization and your roles in your organization so that our listeners can get a better grasp of the work you're doing worldwide.
Yes.
Do you want me to kick it off, Karissa?
Sounds good.
Okay. Just a quick intro about myself, so you all know a little bit more about me. Katie Hultquist, she, her pronouns. I live in Seattle. I am a lesbian and a queer activist. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids and a dog mom. I've spent my whole career, over 25 years, working for social justice and gender equality in the nonprofit world, and I've been with Outright International for about 8 years on staff. And I work on our fundraising team, working with people and partners all over the world who want to help support and invest in our work. And I was a board member to the organization before that. So this is not just a job for me. This is a calling. And just a little personal note outside of work. I'm a huge music fan. I'm a huge fan of women's sports. We can get into that later if we want to. And I spend a lot of time, obviously, with my kids and my family, and thinking about heated rivalry. So I can share a bit about our mission, but do you want to introduce yourself first, Karissa, and then we can get into what we do?
Yeah, that sounds good. So I'm Karissa Jackson, pronouns she, hers. I live in Brussels, Belgium, but I'm originally from the United States. I moved here a couple years ago to be with my then girlfriend, now wife. And at Outright, I manage the economic inclusion and livelihoods portfolio, where I've been at Outright for the past 2 years. And before joining Outright, I spent several years at Freedom House, where I worked on programs advancing democracy and human rights in Europe and Eurasia. My academic background's in Russian and East European studies.
Wow.
You can see why I wanted Karissa to
Yeah,
come on this
obviously.
podcast with me.
Wow.
Me with my
So
my high school diploma. I'll just be over
That's also great.
Continue.
Legit.
I was working on advancing democracy and human rights in Europe and Eastern human rights in
Perfect.
Europe and Eurasia. And after that, I joined Dignity for All, which is a global program that provided support to human rights offenders who were under threat for their work on behalf of
Wow.
LGBTIQ people.
Wow.
Outside of work, though, I enjoy reading, riding bikes, playing football, as you know. I played just before this.
Yes.
Won my match, Katie, so that's great.
Yay!
Thank you.
Football or American football? Just curious.
Oh, I'm sorry. Soccer. This is part of my transition into
Yes.
European life.
Yep.
I also love going to the theater, and I'm deeply passionate about living with integrity and helping others to live in alignment. So my goal professionally is to expand opportunities for LGBTIQ people to access dignified work. As economic security is crucial to living authentically and has a profound impact on your well-being.
Yeah.
So that's my blurb about myself.
Holy shit, that was well said.
I want to take my mic. And,
that was good.
Yeah.
It has me questioning my decisions. I'm like, can I live authentically? Do I?
This is how I feel every day, because I'm working on the sort of building a movement of allies part of it, which is also amazing and part of why we're here. But I get to work with people like Karissa, and we have staff in about 15 countries that are truly experts in the human rights of LGBTIQ people. And I know people probably know, but just to clarify, we're talking about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, and I always say plus people around the world. And but I, going back to sort of when I was watching the show in November and December as it came out, and I remember after the last episode aired, day after Christmas, I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about the joy of the show, and I know we'll come back to that later. And I couldn't stop thinking about Russia and also my colleagues all over the world, not just in Russia. But I kept thinking about those scenes from Sochi and the scenes,
Mhm.
where Ilya sort of talks, even just hints at what is happening back home. And I was just we know a lot about what's happening in Russia and
Mhm.
Eastern Europe, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted Karissa to join us. But I
Mhm.
wondered if viewers were, I mean, you sort of like have this idea of maybe a little bit of what he's talking about, but what is actually happening there? And that was sort of what got me into writing about the show. And I
Yeah.
eventually published a couple op-eds about the show. But really was sort of thinking about that the impact on people who are watching the show all over the world, but also what are people's lives like around the
Mhm.
world. And I will just say that Russia is that part of the world is very um, is something that has been part of Outright's work from the very beginning. Where, as you mentioned, we've been around for 35 years, and when we first started in the early 1990s, that was really one of the very first places that we started doing work. And everything we do is in partnership with local activists. So our staff, our programmatic staff, are in different countries around the world, and there are activists from those countries and regions that are doing work in partnership with other local activists. And so we did a lot of work in Russia back at that time,
Wow.
working towards the decriminalization of homosexuality, which happened in 1993.
Mhm.
We actually smuggled condoms and antiretroviral drugs into the country for people in our communities. We helped sponsor film festivals and conferences, working with local activists. And then, through the years, we've done a lot of other things. We were one of the social impact partners on the film Welcome to Chechnya, and we're able to funnel funds to our partners who were doing work. And Karissa can share more about that, sort of that's one of the things that has happened in that region over time. And now we have a big project in Ukraine that is, of course, dealing with the invasion of Ukraine and its impact on LGBTIQ people. So we can talk more about that later. But just to give a quick overview of what we do, you already shared our mission around protecting the human rights of queer, trans, intersex people and improving the lives of people in our communities. And we really do that through four main programmatic strategies. The first is research, because there's not a lot of evidence and documentation about what's happening to our communities around the world. So we publish reports on different topics. We do a big report every year on Pride around the world and where it's being celebrated and where it's being attacked. We did the first report on conversion therapy, so-called therapy practices, and how those are harming people around the world. We do a lot of different kinds of documentation. Then we use that in our advocacy work. So we do a lot of advocacy at the United Nations. We actually have a group of about 18 activists from the Global South and East in New York this week during the Commission on the Status of Women, which is the largest gathering for gender equality in the world. And we have we're doing our annual UN Advocacy Week right now. So we have queer activists that are going into the UN, meeting with diplomats, sharing their stories, talking about, sharing their demands for what our communities need around the world. They visited Stonewall Inn last week, which is really an incredible experience. And then we do advocacy to help create law and policy change at a more of a sort of regional or national level in different places around the world. And then the third thing we do is supporting the grassroots movement. So that could be training, like we're doing with the activists at the UN right now. It can be providing technical assistance to emerging LGBTIQ organizations around the world, and it's also providing a lot of financial support. So we give a few $1 million away every year to local LGBTI groups that primarily in the global South and East, because it's such a relatively under-resourced part of the world. And then the last thing we do is really why we're here, which is we work on raising awareness and building a movement of allies across borders who are paying attention to what's happening to queer and trans and intersex people around the world, and who are motivated to get involved and to do something. So that's sort of a high-level overview of what we do, and we get into more of the details as we go along.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to kind of start in reverse. So we did, just for our listeners, we did kind of exchange ideas about questions and things we would like to cover during the interview. And I just want to hit on the last point that you mentioned, which is for people who are listening, who are interested in getting involved in being advocates or activists, what is a way to kind of start out, particularly for people who aren't necessarily as comfortable being on a front line or don't necessarily have bottomless pockets to donate money? Do you have any suggestions, particularly through your organization, how they might get involved?
We do. Do you want me to to kick it off, Chris, or okay, and then please chime in because we shared some ideas too, but we have different perspectives and some different points that we would love to share. I mean, I guess the first place that I want to start is you probably already are an advocate and activist, even if that's not how you identify. If you're someone who shares information on threads, I love threads. If you share information on threads, if you share calls to action, if you give already, it doesn't matter how much it is. If you give already to LGBTIQ causes, if you support the queer and trans intersex people in your life and in your family and your community, if you're voting, paying attention to initiatives or candidates and voting in a way that supports LGBTIQ people, making a lot of us that are in the U.S. are literally on speed dial calling our reps our elected representatives every day. If you're supporting queer media, if you're supporting sports leagues, especially women's sports leagues that have a lot of are pretty inclusive and have a lot of LGBTIQ players and fans and other folks in those leagues, you're already on the activist journey. I think one of the things that sort of it's my calling, as I mentioned, but also related to the show, I couldn't stop thinking about is if you are, if you love Shane and Ilya, if you love Scott and Kip, if you find joy in their stories, obviously there are millions of real Shanes and Ilyas and Scotts and Kips everywhere in the world. And the only way we can turn this fantasy into reality is if people do more. That includes people in our own communities and also especially allies to do more than just appreciate and enjoy our stories. That's amazing. But is there something more that you could do to support the queer people, not just in your own circle, but also queer people that you don't know? Could you support a queer cause in your community or across the globe, like outright? Could you, I mean, we've already seen a lot of fans, and I don't know if I can call them out by name here, but I have definitely been appreciating them online. A lot of fans who've started fundraisers related to the show that are supporting LGBTIQ and other causes. If you're not doing something, I guess I'm wondering what's stopping you.
That's a good point. That's a really great point.
But I think what you said is really good for people to hear, because I think that in this day, if you're not, I feel like if you're not seeing people see you be an activist, or there's not something that you can like go out and like tangibly say like, hey, I went and I did this, they feel like they're not doing anything. But like you said, there's activism is a spectrum. There's so many things that a lot of us are already doing every day. And like for me, that made me feel like, okay, I am doing more than I think I'm doing. And doesn't mean that you can't always do more, but I think that it's important for people to see like it is doing things for your community and where you are is
absolutely
so important, especially right now.
And as far as Outright is concerned, I mean, we will get a little bit more into the funding crisis that's impacting our communities later, but you could sign up for our e-newsletter. We send out news about what's happening in our communities and some of the things that we and our partners are doing. You could follow us on social media. We actually don't, for Threads listeners, we don't have an active, you can find us on Threads, and I share a lot of information about Outright on Threads, but we are active on pretty much most of all the other social media platforms except for Twitter or X, which we left along with many other LGBT organizations. So you can follow us and share, news and information. We oftentimes have campaigns that you can share. Like during Pride Month, we have a Outright Proud campaign, and I can't share what that's going to be yet this year, but there's a sort of a call to action every year. And there'll be a lot of content.
I can't say anything, but there will be
but
some.
Here it is.
No. I can tell you it will be Outright Proud, but I can't tell you this year's theme yet, but it's going to be exciting. And I mean, I have been saying like many, the point is that everyone deserves sunshine. Everyone deserves sunshine. So what can you do to help actually help that sunshine reach LGBTIQ people everywhere? What am I missing, Karissa? What else do you think people could do to be supportive or to be activists?
You said a lot of things that I was thinking too about how there are so many different types of activism. And I think really just being committed to keeping yourself informed, but also being willing to speak up or share accurate information if you're encountering false narratives that people share, not necessarily like with bad intention, they just aren't aware. If you sense something isn't right, to be able to speak up and share what you know, I think that's even that is a type of activism. And on top of that, maybe I think just being yourself,
Mm.
no
That's
matter
a good
how
point.
you identify, like it's a huge sign of courage. And I think creating the conditions that allow you to live in a way where you're actually thriving and encouraging others to do the same is another type of activism that I think is very important. And here, what I'm thinking about is surrounding yourself with positive influences and consuming content that nourishes your soul. Like, I forget, is it Audre Lorde who says something like self-care is a type of activism?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yep.
Oh, you got
Yep.
a book?
I
Let's
have
see
that.
it.
Oh, come on.
Hey,
Look at
Nice.
that.
I don't.
Nice.
Was
You
that
probably can't read it,
planned?
but it's
No.
no, not caring
Not
for
our matching
myself.
either.
Caring for
Uh,
myself is not self-indulgence; it is self-preservation, and
Yep.
that is an act of political warfare. Audre
Yep.
Lorde, you're right.
wow,
Nice.
I love it.
And the
Nice.
last thing I
Yeah.
would say though is when it comes to supporting causes,
Mm.
I'll just share my own personal experience where I've been working in the NGO sector for a long time, and I've always felt that donating was a sort of luxury and like only rich people can afford to donate money to causes. But I really pushed myself to try to set up a small recurring donation, and it wasn't anything crazy. It was like $3 a
Yeah.
month. And I made a promise to myself, like every year I'd come back to this and see, am I doing about the same? Can I afford to do more? And I would either like increase that or add something else to it. And
Right.
I feel like I just want to share that example because it's been like 10 years now. I feel very good about it. And now I see, yeah, this is how it all starts with these baby steps. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you make a really good point, which maybe not everyone knows, but since I'm in the development world, this is common knowledge, but it is not, um, you know, the Mackenzie Scotts of the world,
Mm-hmm.
bless them, but it is actually regular people
Mm-hmm.
that do the most philanthropically as a percentage of
Really?
their wealth and their resources. It is not the
Wow.
wealthiest people,
Mm-hmm.
as we now really can see, unfortunately, playing out, in a very stark way. It is regular people doing small actions of love and solidarity and making small gifts to things that they care about every single day. I think the last thing that I just wanted to mention here is, um, this is not really about giving particularly, but it's maybe just more about paying attention, which is that for listeners who are American or maybe in the US, I think we feel and we are so under attack right now that it can be tempting to kind of go inward and sort of say, I can't really think about what's happening outside of the US because there's so much happening here. And I definitely want people to step into what is and stand up against a lot of the things that are happening in our communities here. But I worry that if we don't pay attention and do something to take action, across our borders, we're sort of inadvertently buying into the America first or America only mentality. And the truth is that we know this, but like we rise and fall together across
Yep.
borders. It's not like we're one, global family. And the challenges that we're seeing with, which you can talk more about, things that have been happening in Russia over the last 12 or 15 years. Where do you think the Don't Say Gay laws in Florida came from?
Right.
We see the kind of hate and attacks and funding moving across borders that is targeting our communities, and also the progress is linked across borders. So it is not actually going to serve us to only focus on what is happening here, even though it is so hard, and we need to like muster all of our resources to defend against what's happening here. We at least need to pay some attention to what is happening outside of this country as well.
Yeah. We're not the only people in the world.
Right. Can't treat it like a silo. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
that the Don't Say Gay was the perfect example because it's
Yeah.
the inspiration comes from somewhere all the time, unfortunately.
And this is a great segue into one of the questions, which is what do you feel like in the show what do you feel like most accurately illustrated the struggles of navigating Russia as a queer citizen and person?
I'm gonna let
Okay.
you start us off here, Karissa.
All right, buckle up because it's a long journey.
Yeah, because you were saying, it's important to
Yeah.
have things around you and support systems and stuff. So like, what does that look like in a place where you can't, really openly have that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's important to start off with some background for exactly what is creating that bad environment in Russia. So I think the first thing that comes to mind when people think about Russia right now is the war in Ukraine, which
Mm-hmm.
started with the occupation of Crimea in 2014 and significantly escalated with a full-scale invasion in 2022. And it's not surprising to people who are familiar with Cold War history that Russia has exerted serious influence on the region, and that continues up until now, albeit in different forms. But one of the clearest examples of this is the proliferation of those so-called foreign agent and propaganda laws, which originate in Russia and find their ways into other countries. There are many laws that negatively impact LGBT communities, but I'll just try to quickly summarize a few of them. And I also want to flag, I'm using LGBT intentionally because a lot of these laws don't explicitly relate to the challenges that intersex communities face, which are different.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2012, Russia passed a foreign agent law that imposes severe restrictions on any civil society organizations that are receiving foreign funding. And this disproportionately affects LGBTIQ organizations because these communities are living in hostile environments and often have to rely on external support to advocate for their basic human rights and be seen as full citizens in their own country. Then, a year later, in 2013, another law prohibiting propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations to minors took effect, which is really it's really clever that the Russian government has claimed control of this term propaganda, as if the misinformation that they're spreading at home and abroad isn't propaganda.
Yeah.
But that's a side note.
Right.
This is one of those so-called family values laws. So basically, it bans any communication that, and I mean anything like in the media or online, anything that can remotely be perceived as positively portraying or even recognizing the existence of LGBT people to children. Anything that suggests that LGBT communities are a normal part of Russian society. And just last year, this law was it was expanded to include new online censorship measures that impose fines on people who search for content, and the content is designated as extremist. Which brings me to extremism. There's this designation in Russia, which they've given to the international LGBT movement in 2023, presumably because the movement threatens traditional Russian values. And these aren't just words. Being labeled an extremist carries the potential for prison sentences over 10 years long. And just last week, activists affiliated with two major LGBT organizations were labeled as extremists. So very real things. There are people living in exile, unable to engage with loved ones for their own safety and for fear of putting them at risk too, because they're living in a country where even clicking on LGBT adjacent content can result in prison time. So just
Oh my God.
one more example. I'm sorry, I know it's a lot.
No, you're doing
okay.
this is
You're good. You're good.
This is
Please,
necessary. This is good.
Yeah, we're good.
Just one more example here is that in 2021, Russia banned same-sex marriage and adoption by same-sex parents. And the law goes so far as to even prevent the adoption of Russian orphans by parents, straight or otherwise, who merely live in countries that allow same-sex marriage. So all of these laws.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. So because in the US technically same-sex marriage is permissible, at least for this half hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's be honest, it could change.
Jesus.
No one could adopt from Russia because the law
Exactly. It was an awful thing. There were people who were in the middle of the process. Like, adoption takes a long time,
Of
like
course.
several months, years for some people. And they had met the child maybe, and Russia just like canceled it, canceled those. It's awful. Yeah.
Wow.
So all of these laws demonize LGBT people and contribute to these hostile conditions and a culture of fear. And you can also safely assume that LGBTIQ communities in other countries that deal with Russian influence and aggression are having to cope with similar threats.
Right.
All that to say, I feel that the show presents a very fair picture of the challenges and isolation LGBT Russians face without any exaggeration. It doesn't overwhelm you with the detail, but it gives you a direction to learn more if you're interested. And it's evident that home is not a safe place. Your government seeks to erase your existence. And if you resist, the government seeks ways to punish you, everyone you care about, and everyone who cares about you. And even if you are some national treasure athlete like Ilya, you have to constantly walk this tightrope, the expectations you have at home with all those restrictions, and then abroad with the stereotypes and the precarity of being a guest in somebody else's country.
Right.
You can't relax and be yourself and your true self that is able to love and show that love. And I feel like in the show, we even see Ilya being subjected to blackmail by his own family because they understand and are taking advantage of the very real danger Ilya would face if he were to come out. And I know I've shared a lot of legal examples of why it's difficult to be LGBT in Russia, but I feel like I have to emphasize that there are very real violent threats to the community. If you're interested in learning more, Katie mentioned this documentary film at the beginning, Welcome to Chechnya. Chechnya is a republic in the North Caucasus of the Russian Federation.
Okay.
And this film shows how just a few years after the Sochi Olympics, incidentally, Chechen authorities orchestrated these purges that targeted mostly gay men, abducting, imprisoning, torturing, and killing them. And in many cases, these men were betrayed by their very own families. So just a couple of years ago in 2023, the European Court of Human Rights did rule that the Russian government is responsible for these crimes, but Russia remains, of course, unwilling to take accountability or even investigate the situation. And this is what it looks like when you don't have policies or mechanisms in place to ensure that you as a queer person are an equal member of society. So long story, not so short. It is extremely difficult and downright exhausting to be LGBT in Russia. And I appreciate that Heated Rivalry really humanizes people. Often I think people visualize LGBT people as activists marching in pride parades, but those who are less visible, less out and vocal still need to make decisions every day, making calculations about their safety, their family, their livelihoods, all while having to hide their private lives. And even if you do escape to more friendly countries like Sasha and Ilya did, you are still having to live your life underground if you want to be able to see your home and family again. So that's my not so short take on the situation.
That's a perfect amount of time.
That was,
You did
I
great.
mean, yeah,
That was incredible.
And we have a couple of friends of ours who are connected to Russia in one way or another, whether having lived there before or having to visit, and have given us some insight as friends. Not maybe the political side of it as far as like policy is concerned, but the examples that you gave, I think, are pretty eye-opening, especially when you compare it to what was drawn for us in Heated Rivalry. And I think the line that a lot of people go back to is in episode 5 is when he says, because Russia. And it's initially people think like, oh, it's funny because something about that delivery is comedic. But then when you think about it, there's so much pain in that line that that it's
and
still
those two words carry so much more.
Yes, it's his country, but it's his country that's inflicting so much pain on him. And is holding him back in so many ways. So,
and I think that you're going to, well, we might talk later. We might not, we might have to come back and talk more about what we want to see in season 2. Cause I realize I have things that are probably okay to say, and then things that might be too spoilery because I have read the next book,
fine.
but
we talked about this in the last episode.
You're good here.
Okay.
If you don't, we read them. There's no spoilers. The books are out, you guys. It's out.
That's how I feel too now. But, I think we definitely are going to see Ilya's journey around mental health that is partly because of his family and partly because of, the situation that he grew up in. And, I think he has unique pressures given his stature, but also he has unique privileges. And if
Right.
you think about, yes, many people have fled, but the reality is that most queer and trans people cannot flee, whether we're talking about Russia or any other country. That is not a viable option for most people. And
Mhm.
so that is one reason why I think that the work that we're trying to do to support activism within a country and or in Russia's case, a lot of activists have left and they're doing activism from outside the country, but that is so vital to keep doing because yeah, most people are just trying to live their lives
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how to do that in a safe way that amazingly, and you probably saw this reported as well, but there's been a couple of articles about it. Um, Heated Rivalry is available in, the last time I counted, it was over 40 countries. I don't know if it's expanded even more since then. There are 193 UN member states. So it is incredible how far it's gone, and it still is not available in most countries. Um, in some countries, it's banned, but there are millions of people watching it in those countries, including Russia. There are so many Russians inside Russia and outside Russia who are watching the show, who are fans of the show, and I think that it is something that not everyone has the same, opinion about the show and viewpoint on the show, but I think it is bringing a lot of joy and a feeling of like being seen to people and the feeling of hope in some ways to people in many, and we've been collecting testimonials actually from some of our colleagues and friends and partners in different parts of the world about what the show means to them. And I am happy to share. I've shared some of them online. I'm happy to share a little bit about that. But the other thing I just wanted to add about Russia, and I think you alluded to this with certainly with Ukraine, Karissa, is the influence outside of Russia. So we want people to understand what is happening in Russia, and we also want them to understand how that is reverberating across borders, both in Ukraine with starting with the incursions and now this full scale war since 2022, and how LGBTIQ people are in particular are being harmed by that. But also it's not, Florida, the US, Kazakhstan, Ghana. We just saw a new bill introduced, passed in, it's now at the going for signature in Senegal last week that added new penalties, on top of the criminalization of homosexuality, added new penalties onto that, and also included some elements related to this idea of propaganda. And so there's a lot of attacks on free speech and being able to organize and receive funding for doing LGBTIQ activism in other places that are not disconnected from Russia. And I'm not just blaming Russia. I mean, we could have a whole nother conversation about the US and how what the US is doing is impacting LGBTIQ people around the world, and we could do that later. But I think it is really important for people to take that away, that it is a problem in Russia, and it's also it's reverberating in many places around the world.
In terms of the testimonials you had brought up, is there one that like specifically stood out to you that you would want to share with everybody?
I do. Let me see if I can find it, because since it's a quote, I want to get it right. I mean, so many. I've shared some of them on Threads because I keep adding them when I get them, because I love hearing them. But one is from a longtime colleague who is so affiliated with Outright from Iraq, and what he said was that he's a huge fan of the show too, and he said that Heated Rivalry shows that queer stories and queer people exist everywhere, in all sports and in all cultures. The show portrays how universal queer experiences are. Growing up, I thought I was the only queer person in Iraq. I was made to believe that queer people belong in prisons, mental health hospitals, or the grave. That we didn't deserve love stories, we didn't deserve supportive friends, and the right to discover who we are. But Heated Rivalry shows that queer people belong on center stage and, like others, deserve to be celebrated for their talents and love stories.
Wow.
For me, that just says it all.
That
they were excited to talk about it, and they were excited, even if anonymously, to share their perspective. It's really quite a global phenomenon.
I feel like we all have an opportunity to be Una to everybody right now. Like
Totally.
it's our responsibility now to be aware and do everything we can to create spaces where people feel safe and comfortable enough to talk about who they are and share who they are.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do in life and on the internet is to say, well, I'm your mom now. Yeah. So drink some water. You need to take a jacket, like that's because so many people miss that. And I, like there were elements of that like I had personal experience with, and that I don't want other queer people who are growing up to miss that. And we need that, you kind of like need that, the elders to guide the way, so to speak. So with that in mind.
Yeah, let me just say, I always say now in the heated rivalry world, but in real life, let me be your proud and protective lesbian auntie.
There you go.
See? Perfect.
Aunties.
That's perfect. So how do you all I imagine that your work can get heavy. How do you keep yourselves grounded and kind of motivated to keep going?
You want to start first, Katie?
Sure.
They're like, let me pull this whole suitcase in here.
No, I mean, let's make it simple. I watch heated rivalry, obviously.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I try to find things. I think that I heard this great quote from an artist that I am not going to remember her name right now, but I was at I was lucky enough we were a charity partner of Brandy Carlisle and her amazing foundation. She and her wife have a foundation, and we were at the featured charity partner at their music festival this year. And one of the other artists there said something really amazing. She was talking about how queer joy is not only a part of protest, but it's also a product of protest. And so I really think leaning into queer joy. Queer joy is a survival mechanism. And so I go to women's sports. I live in Seattle, so we have NWSL, WNBA, PWHL teams, and I love watching women's sports. I try to find my people and allies. I think about, how we can change people's hearts and minds. I think about the progress that we've made. I think what keeps me going is knowing that, and part of the reason why we're facing the backlash that we're facing right now is because we've actually made an incredible amount of progress in a very short amount of time. Just since, in the 35 years since Outright was founded, 55 countries have decriminalized same-sex relations, which is actually mind-boggling when you think about it. We have, since 2001, about 40 countries that have marriage equality on a federal or national level. We have about 20 countries that have banned conversion practices, which seek to force people to change their sexual orientation or gender identity. There's 16 or 18 countries that allow self-determination in terms of legal gender recognition. So that we have over 100 countries that we've documented Pride being celebrated. That
map you guys have on the website it's so cool.
Right.
Yeah. So cool.
So that just like leaning into that history, when we started, there were no governments with us, in 1990. And now we are coordinating the LGBTI core group at the UN, which is a group of about 42, 43-ish countries, member states that are working with us to protect LGBTIQ people and advance equality. So I just think about that history and that progress, and I know that we are used to surviving really hard times, and we also have made a lot of progress, and we will keep making progress, but we have to sort of dig in our heels and really fight to defend our communities right now.
It's a marathon.
It's a marathon. Yeah.
Can't lose
What
hope.
about you, Karissa?
Lots of overlap. Not surprised. For me, I'm like always looking for silver linings. So what Katie was describing about those marginal gains, like adding up over time, is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I love heated rivalry for being such an easy silver lining. I love the like realistic, positive portrayal of a type of love that is in these traditionally pretty hetero male dominated spaces that doesn't usually get a lot of attention or sunshine, and like all the possibilities that presents. And maybe I just add, like, community is also very big for me. I like to surround myself with kind people that lift me up and inspire me and help me to be the best version of myself.
Awesome.
Football really grounds me. It was really
Literally
important for
touching
me when I
grass.
Literally touch. I know.
touching the grass.
Mhm.
When I moved here a couple of years ago, I had to like build my community from the ground up, and this football club was a big part of that. And it's also nice to just have a set time that reminds you to play, and that play is important for like recharging your batteries and also helping you keep perspective. So I think I already said, like, I love reading. I love musicals as well. I always have like a Broadway song on a playlist. Another thing that helps you have perspective.
We're going to do a whole separate episode on musicals.
Yes.
I'll be in touch. Natalie's not going to join us.
I love
We have a lot of ideas.
Oh, do you? I didn't know.
I mean, I don't watch them all the time. My favorite musical is the musical episode of Buffy. So that's
Yeah. Yes, One Small Feeling.
I have it on. I have the soundtrack on a vinyl. They did like a special pressing.
Oh wow!
Yeah, original fandoms. I was like, okay, Buffy, the L Word, Queer as Folk. This is a sad weekend for us because we just found out that the Buffy reboot.
Why would you bring it up?
No.
Did any of you ever watch Lost Girl?
Yes.
No.
I was. Yes.
Who was in that?
Okay, sorry.
Oh God, I'm terrible with names.
Me
so,
too.
Like,
I feel like it sounds familiar.
Zoe Palmer.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me just add one more, if I can share one more quote with you, because I think that I forgot to mention this, that the other thing that really makes me feel better and gives me hope is lest anyone think that solidarity is, one directional. It's amazing how much our colleagues and partners, for those of us who are in the US, have reached out to share their support and solidarity with us. Even though they may be dealing with and have been working in or living in very harsh and repressive environments for a long time, they have shared a lot of strength and love with us. And one of them is a partner who is a Chinese activist, and he shared something that he gave me permission to share. But he talked about, we had asked him, what gives you hope in such difficult times, and he said that hope doesn't arrive. It's something that we create through our actions, and that he thinks of optimism as a strategy of resistance and what allows us to keep building, connecting, and moving forward, even if the road is unclear. And then he said that no matter how hard it is, we will never give up because we are fighting for something so beautiful and so worthwhile. We know we are going to win. And that just gave me, chills. So I think about that when I need to feel a little hopeful.
Wow.
Incredible. Just
okay.
Well, it's so true.
What do you say after that?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Nicely done. That was beautifully said. That really, I mean,
thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Right. It's the fact that we have the hope from this show, and the fact we even reached out to the folks who've been hopefully listening to the podcast or just following us on Threads, and the number of people who have said that the show helped them feel like they could be more themselves, and feel more hopeful for the future, and feel more comfortable being a fan of something and finding joy and finding whimsy, is something that I think a lot of us have been missing because of the times that we are in. The favorite phrase lately has been the horrors, and everybody just kind of like gesturing widely around. And I think it's been nice to like refocus on something that you can find genuine happiness in with other people as well.
Well, speaking of the horrors, we can pivot into the yeets, because I know that you, Katie and Karissa, you said that you guys had some stuff you were good for yeeting. So what are we going to yeet out of here?
Lead the way, Katie.
Yes, I don't want to. How much time do we have? No, just kidding. I actually think it's a great fandom. and it's been a lot of fun to be even a small part of it. I would just say racism, absolutely not welcome here. Transphobia, absolutely not welcome here. And I have to shout out to especially Harrison Brown, the
Yes.
trans actor and filmmaker who is a former professional hockey player and has an incredible new film that came out last year, and plays hopefully everyone knows, plays a supporting character on Boston's team in season 1, but he's amazing.
Tell
So no
people.
racism. Tell people.
He's like, fine.
No, I want room service right now.
I didn't really think about that, but like both of this, I don't know if he has more than 2 scenes, but both the scenes he's in, he's like the one that makes Ilya kind of go off the deep end. Like,
Yeah, totally.
I stubbed my toe.
I know. But we are big fans.
Big
So
fans
no-
of Harrison. Big
No
fan.
racism, no transphobia, and then and he also wrote a book called You Can Play, which I recommend checking out. And then just finally, of course, please don't cross boundaries with respect to people's, especially actors, but anyone's lives and privacy. Just keep it respectful. I think those are the things that I'm thinking about eating out this week.
Yeah.
Love that.
We are with you on that.
We are
co-signed.
Co-signed. Triple
Co-signed.
co-sign. All right.
Now-
what are you eating in?
What are we getting in?
Okay.
What are
Yes. Well, building off the shout out to Harrison, I'm a big fan of appreciating the entire cast and crew. I have listened to some interviews with, the people who did the music and the editors and the, supporting actors. And I find it so interesting to hear different perspectives about the show. I especially love, I'm not going to get the actors' names right, unfortunately, but Svetlana, Elena, Maria. Shout out to any of the queer bar scenes. Frankly, with Maria and Elena and Sean and Kyle, I just love all of those scenes. And the parents, obviously, David and Una. The
Adopt
Carter.
me.
Carter, hello.
Seriously.
Love for Carter.
Girl.
Sorry, cats and dogs.
Carter
Fun.
on.
I know.
Look, we love Carter. He looks great
do.
in silver.
Yes,
All right. He
yes.
looks great in silver.
Hayden and Jackie. I mean, when we talk about season 2, like one of the things I'm most looking forward to is seeing more Hayden and Jackie and time with the kids. Like that's gonna be so
Yes.
great, right?
If
So
we don't get the wedding at the Pike's house,
we're
I will
definitely
riot.
getting it. We're definitely getting it.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited. I have no
Wait.
clue what you all are talking
Oh my
about.
God,
I haven't
you got
read
it.
it yet.
Oh.
My sister's read everything and she's
That's
promised
so
not to
fun.
spoil it.
Yeah.
I just
Yes.
want to be surprised.
You got
Okay,
it.
okay.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah.
can't.
Anyway, so we're yeeting in all of the appreciation for the entire cast and crew and supporting characters and folks. We are yeeting in just that idea of the global perspective and knowledge that people all over the world are watching and part of the fandom. And we're yeeting in the idea of turning appreciation for the show into real life allyship.
Yeah.
And that being an ally is a verb. I always say that. So just, pick something. It could be something small, but turn that appreciation into allyship and action.
Natalie, I think we have our episode title.
Yeah.
Being an ally is a verb.
Yeah, being an ally is a verb.
Seriously.
And I mean, take all of the energy that you all have from your hyperfixation and get outside.
Channel it. Exactly.
Go outside.
Exactly.
Go outside and be good to other people and help create the community that you so love to see on your screen. Go do that outside.
Go do it. Go do.
It's funny. I'm sorry I've talked so much about this football team, but it's relevant here.
It
It's
is,
interesting because
please.
it's very international, this club.
Yeah.
And it's funny, everybody has a different subscription to HBO from the countries they come from. So
Right.
it's like a rolling initiation into the
Yes.
club. And even in
Best part.
Belgium, like the cottage wasn't available for me until like a week ago. So
What?
I know.
yeah, nuts,
That's
right?
what I was
So it's
saying.
just funny.
Like
It's
everybody is at a different stage of
Yes.
their hyperfixation because it's coming out in different places.
Yes. And we
Yeah.
keep saying, we're like, I don't care how new you are, point out all the things you see. Tell me as soon as you see it, when you
Yes.
see it, how you felt, what you were wearing, where your dog was sitting. I want to know it all.
We'll be so excited. I
Yes.
mean, when you asked what reheat I'm on, well, I don't even know what the number of reheats is,
I
but
know.
probably
Redacted.
And-
We know this.
Redacted. Yeah, totally.
But every time it's like there's something new every time. I mean, first of all, I laugh harder. I love all the comedic lines. They both have a lot of comedic. There's so much comedy in the show. I laugh harder every time, and I see new things every time, and so bring it on.
Yeah,
The
you're just getting
rewatch
to the
value
comment-
is
peak.
it's immense.
It's
immense.
You just can't go wrong.
That's why we're doing this.
Thank you both for all of your time, and
Yes.
we would love to have you back either
Yeah.
later in our podcast season or when season 2 comes out. But thank
There's
you so much.
so much more to discuss with you guys, because I know
Yes.
that there's so much more to what you do. So we definitely
Yeah.
want to make sure that we give you guys more time to share that with everybody. So
Yeah.
This was
Well, thank you so
fun.
much
Thank
for
you
having us.
Yeah.
We love your show and what you're trying to do, and in the fandom and beyond. And we're really honored to be here.
well, we are honored that you came to talk to us. So thank you so much, and we hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
All right.